Hi, and welcome to Sequences and Series Part 2. In this case, we're going to take a look more specifically at the formulas that are associated with arithmetic sequences and series only. So for right now, if we look at our first formula that we see here, it looks a little bit complex and a little bit what I would call mathy. We have all these variables, a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And looking at something like that, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense just in its formulaic form. So what we want to do is just talk about what each of those variables actually represents, so we know how to utilize a formula like this. And you'll see examples where we put this formula into practice in some of our further videos. But for right now, let's just go through and label these. So when you see something that says a sub n, this represents the nth term in a sequence. And what that means is that for any particular sequence, the nth term is whatever term you're looking for, so based on whatever that subscript is. If you had a sub 5, that means that you're looking for the 5th term in that particular sequence. Or if you had a sub 2, that means you're looking for the 2nd term in that particular sequence. So when we see the nth term, it just means whatever that subscript is that we see there, that's which term in the sequence we're trying to find. A sub 1 follows a similar notation, and that just represents our first term. So this is going to be what your sequence starts with. Whatever that first term is in your sequence is what's represented by a sub 1. Now in our parentheses we have n minus 1. N represents the number of terms. So for example, if you're trying to find the 6th term and you had a sub 6, then that means n would represent 6. That means there are 6 total terms that you're considering when trying to find what that 6th term specifically is. And lastly, this variable d represents the difference between terms. So that difference, for example, if your sequence, and we'll put a small example right here, if your sequence was 4, 7, 10, then the difference would be 3. Your first term would be 1. And if you were asked, let's say, a sub 3, in this case, would be 10, because that's your 3rd term in the sequence. So when you're asked for a specific term, to calculate that, you're plugging in your first term, the total number of terms, and the difference into this formula for an arithmetic sequence. Now, when you have to find the summation of all the terms in the sequence, that's when you're talking about a series. And for an arithmetic series, this formula here is going to tell us what the sum of a particular series would be when we're dealing with something that's arithmetic. So here, s sub n tells you that you're looking at the sum of n terms. So for example, if you had s sub 3, that means you're looking for the sum of those 3 terms in your arithmetic series. Whatever your n value is divided by 2, essentially what we're doing here is basically taking an average of our first term. So n still represents the number of terms, a sub 1 still represents our first term. In fact, it's easier to just show that we're still talking about the same kind of language. First term, number of terms for n, and a sub n still represents our nth term. So in some of your problems, you might be asked first to calculate the nth term, and then to plug that in to your summation formula so that you can calculate the sum of that arithmetic series. And if you have more questions, please take a look at our other videos. We will post some videos that show examples of exactly how to use these two formulas seen here. If you have further questions or would like to request additional material to be covered, feel free to leave comments in the comments section below or visit our website at www.sandersontestprep.com. The link is in the description below. Thanks.